Welcome back to Dirt Sociable. This is where we get to talk about Crandon. And of course, the cup race, the thing that broke the internet for a solid 2 days on that miraculous finish.
Yeah, excited to break down Spring Crandon and discuss that. And obviously, like you kicked it off with, what else can you say? We've been talking about since we started the show, like excitement needs to get back into the sport, and well, I guess apparently we just needed a cup race.
Yeah, that definitely brought a lot of excitement.
Yeah, it was a crazy finish. It's definitely something you don't often see. Cars ending up on top of each other for the end of the race. I'm trying to think back to all my years of short course racing. I haven't seen it in short course.
Yeah, this finish kind of reminded me of when Kyle LeDuc got overturned on his side, and it was right before the finish line. That was kind of one of the things that it reminded me of because it was such a close accident to the finish. Obviously, they both passed the finish line, but you could imagine how it would be if Keegan would have got turned right there sideways on the wall. Cheney was blocked up in him, and they both were inches or feet away from the finish line.
Yeah, it was close to that happening. I mean, they definitely were going in that trajectory of the wall, so it could have happened.
Yeah, I think Cheney, once he hopped up on the truck, I think his foot just went flat to the floor and decided he wasn't going to stop until he seen that banner go over top of him.
Yeah, I don't think Keegan lifted either.
No, that was good. It was a two-truck train.
Yes, that was pretty cool. I thought one thing you got to shout out to the timing, like CJ catching the Pro 2 leader, like that timing was perfectly. He caught it, right around the barn turn. He had his first look, and that's right in that last section is when you want them to kind of catch up and the finish to be that way.
Yeah, so I think Faye is in charge of that timing. So if it is or if it's somebody else, pat on the back. That was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, a lot goes into that. I think I've seen CJ talk about in the past, like you have to try to weigh in so much and like guess the track condition, and so much goes into it that it just ended up being really perfect for this cup race.
Yeah, we actually had a couple people missing out of that cup race. Ryan Beat and Johnny Greaves were not in the cup race, and I think there might be one or two more, but those were the big ones that kind of were top competitors in that perspective class.
Yeah, I mean, though, at Crandon, Keegan gets out front at all. That's a dangerous spot for the rest of the field. I mean, the announcer said it too, but I agree with them that once Keegan's up front, he's hard to get by, and he knows that track. That's his hometown track. He's been there his whole life, so I mean, he knows that track inside and out. He knows where to run. He knows where his truck specifically runs well there. So it's a perfect setup for, Keegan to get the lead early of the Pro 2s. He didn't get the whole shot, but he got the early lead when there was a truck that broke and collected up. I think it was Dave Mason Jr.
Yep. Yeah, there was a little bit of collection on that first lap that helped do a little bit of congestion there.
Yeah, other than that, though, I wasn't there on Sunday, so I was traveling. I was there Saturday, so I didn't get to see it in person. But I bet that had to be just electric, and Crandon was going crazy on that finish.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Actually, thank you to I got tickets to go up in the grandstands, and I was right by the Greaves crew was right behind us. It was quite an exciting moment. Everybody was cheering.
Yeah, that's good for the sport. I mean, any type of press like that is great for the sport, great for short course. I mean, getting that amount of eyes on it, it got picked up by some media companies as well that don't just cover the sport. So, as a fan, I'm excited for that exposure.
Yeah, definitely. Heartbreak moment. I've got to mention it. Kyle Greaves breaks on the last lap. And I was sitting there timing it out if Cheney was going to catch him at the finish for third. And I was like, it's going to be right down to the wire. It was like just like Faye timing. It was going to be right down to the wire for that third as well. And then Kyle has a mechanical brake failure on that last lap, the very beginning part of the last lap.
So, with that being said, since Cheney caught them at that time, would it have also been Kyle Greaves in there if he wouldn't have broke?
So if, hindsight 2020 on that, it's hard to say, but...
in theory, right?
Well, Kyle would have been, I think he would have been a half a second, maybe even a second ahead of Cheney at that moment, because the way I was timing it, they were going to be right at the flag stand. That was going to be a deciding factor right at the flag stand. So that's why I say heartbreak moment. Like, that would have been...
Because he would have passed safely because they would have still been connected probably.
Most likely, yeah. And I think...
It would have been interesting.
Yeah, and Cheney alluded to... He seemed a little more hokey-pokey going through there because there was some spot... The spotter was losing his mind on the radio to Cheney, and Cheney didn't understand if it was like a local yellow or if it was just two guys tangled up like they were. So he was kind of hokey-pokey through there. So that also is a factor. Like, if he would have sped up...
Just imagine if he was full throttle through there.
Yeah.
That would have been nuts.
Yeah. And then, obviously, CJ, he alludes to as well that he breaks reverse gear because the reverse gear in the Pro 4 is super weak. They make it small and lightweight to get that rotation mass down and the size-wise. So he breaks reverse. That's why it's, so hard for those guys to get unhooked. They're in, Kincaid's in there doing all kinds of fucking flag hands, and they get it figured out in the nick of time. But I believe CJ also said there was a forward gear issue, and that's why he should have been able to walk Cheney when they got separated. But I believe there was a forward gear issue as well.
Probably. I mean, when they got connected, they were definitely full throttle trying to, get unstuck. So probably broke something in that mix.
Yeah. So, but either way, those type of scenarios make for some really good TV and excitement.
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, I don't have anything else on the Cup race, but I think we probably can get into a couple classes here that had their own excitement. Probably not for the same reasons, but let's get into some buggy stuff.
Well, let's. I got a question for you regarding, because we got weather again at Crandon, which Spring Crandon.
What did I say the last episode? Spring
Crandon always brings rain, and yes, you said it, and I agree. I don't think that's ever going to change. The track did turn around. Actually, it was a pretty good track. I mean, when we get rain like that, it was raining really heavy actually on Saturday morning. You were driving up that day. I even texted you. I was like, hey, it's raining pretty hard. There's going to be a delay.
Yeah, I took my time.
Yeah. So what is your over-under bet if I would say we're going to have 6 out of 8 race weekends get rain?
And we had, 2 already?
For just race weekend, because it's going to be too hard to determine by day.
So are you considering Wheatland rain?
Yeah, that was rain.
So we're 3 for 3.
Yeah.
Fall Crandon, probably not. I am saying there will not be 6 weekends.
All right.
I'm going to go with no.
All right. I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we have what? You got ERX coming up, Lena, Bark River, ERX maybe. I mean, in the history of ERX, probably.
Yeah, you could have a tornado if you go to ERX.
Been through one of those. Bark River is usually pretty decent. Yeah, I'm going to go less.
All right. So we'll bet a $1, a track burger on that.
A track burger?
Or right. Cheese curds, I guess. Is probably more appropriate.
Yeah. We'll see. I've had 2 cheese curds. Well, I didn't have cheese curds at Wheatland, did I? No, I did not. So 2 of the 3 tracks I've had cheese curds. So I know which is my favorite so far.
Yeah, Crandon's my favorite.
This season, yes.
Yeah. Anago, it's been locking. Maybe it was just the time that we got them, but they've been lacking. They got it all greasy and all weird and soggy.
Yeah, I don't know. They weren't my favorite this year.
All right, race talk now. You want to lead us into light buggy?
Yeah, where I was headed.
Yeah, before I rudely interrupted you.
Yeah, so obviously, like I said, different excitement for a different reason. I don't know if most people would say excitement, the guys that were getting DQ'd, but there was obviously a whole plethora of individuals that got the DQ in light buggy and single buggy, obviously shaking up the results. We could start in the light buggy category. I don't know where you want to start. Do you want to talk about the results, or do you want to get into the DQ situation in those two classes? Like, how do you want to break this one down?
Let's touch the DQ subject after 1600 buggy talk. Light buggy. My main note here is Tom Perryman is the fastest on Friday, and I know it's practice, but
come on, you're fastest on practice. Come on. Oh man. So obviously, Schultz takes it on Saturday. We'll get into it, but Schultz has won the DQ. So the top three after DQs ends up being Evan Hockers, Greg Stengel, and Jake Schillman. And then if you're looking at Sunday, I mean, here you go. Here's your guy. In first, Tom Perryman.
I told you, that fast in practice paid off.
Yeah. Jake Dishler is second, and Evan Hockers in third. So, I mean, with the DQs and obviously everything going on, that really set up well for Evan Hockers on this one.
Yeah, and he's been fast all season, and it's just he's getting faster and faster, and it's paying off for him.
Yeah, I mean, if you flip to those times, at least on Saturday, Evan Hockers ran a 121 and Schultz was a 120. So it was really only a few cars that were breaking, that 121 or faster. So, yeah, like you said, I would agree. Hockers has been fast all year. He proved it again at Crandon. It's kind of cool seeing like the old vet Greg Stengel hanging up there. He's been, on the podium multiple times. Wouldn't expect anything else from him. He obviously knows how to carry the momentum in the light buggies, and he probably at this point, granted Wheatland, he probably hadn't raced that track ever, but you get to Crandon, how many times has Greg Stengel went around Crandon? Quite a bit, so he probably has his lines pretty down pat for any track condition.
Yeah, I would agree. He's certainly one of the veterans of the veterans of the veterans class.
Yeah, there's a few of them hanging around. So outside of light buggy, getting into the single buggy here a little bit. So in single buggy on Saturday, it's Taylor Roloff, Michael Seafelt, and Donald Westrow. And then Sunday, after everything gets sorted out, returns back to normal with Connor Schultz being up on the top of the box, Seafelt second, and Taylor Roloff third. Obviously, Roloff showing a lot of speed as well in that single buggy.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing to take away from 1600 class is the Saturday, the controversial restart. I looked it back, and I don't know if it's that controversial, but Seafelt definitely did not seem happy on the podium when he was talking about it.
Yeah, it's tough. Anytime you're giving the restart to the drivers and there's, in between the cones, it leaves up, if something happens, it leaves a lot of, questions like, is that the right way to restart? Is it not? Obviously, if you're in the lead, you have a chance to make it huge to your advantage if you know when to restart at the track. Just got to be on it and know when to restart.
Yeah, and that segues nicely. I actually called Luke Alcox because he's the class rep for 1600 buggy and wanted to get his input on...
Which, by the way, no Alcox brothers at Crandon. Come on.
Oh, they were there. They just weren't racing.
Yeah, that's what I meant. They weren't racing. What the heck?
Yeah. But we called him. I called him and got some insight. So I'll clip in that video now. All right, so we have our friend Luke Alcox on the phone for a little phone a friend, phone an expert situation here for the 1600 buggy, light buggy carburetor dilemma. So you are the 1600 buggy class rep?
Yeah, I think going on 3 years now.
Wow, that's a pretty good string. So, can you describe to us? Obviously, we don't have a lot of picture aids here. I'll try to throw some stuff in from like new carburetor pictures and stuff like that. But give us your best description of what the issue is that's kind of roared its head here at Crandon with the carburetors.
Yes. So there's a few things going on there, and Volkswagen's unique in the way that it was built worldwide for about 70 years. So there's like about 100 different variations of almost every part. And so some of the issues we ran into is that the rule book specs out a specific carburetor. It's a PIC 30-1, 2, or 3. You can also buy an MP, which is an aftermarket company. You need a brand new carburetor, and it specs out part numbers for those. It does spec out specifically you cannot run a Solex PIC 30, and that's dash nothing. And so there were some Solex PIC 30s that were found, and then there's even a deeper thing to that is there's early and late PIC 30s, and the throttle plate shaft on those are different diameters. So technically a late PIC 30 could be legal, but the thing with them is that it says PIC 30 on it. You know, the rule book gives you part numbers, and that's an illegal part number, regardless of dimensions and everything else. You know, that's just as it is. I'm not in charge of who gets DQ'd or for what or where points go. And then on top of that, there was some illegally modified carburetors that there's a small tube just below the throttle plate, and that's for, in the factory application, a vacuum advanced distributor. You can cap that plate from the outside, but you cannot remove it from the venturi of the carburetor.
So the big thing that we're dealing with here is allowing more air to get through the actual carburetor for better combustion.
Yes, yep.
Okay. So did they check the whole field then once this was brought to the attention, or once they just ended up finding it?
So I did not race Crandon, and I don't know for sure, but I believe that, well, on Sunday I had received a text blast that said all of Single Buggy bring a tech or a crew member with you to tech for pre-race tech. So I believe that Single Buggy was completely gone through, but I do not know that for sure.
So that would have been on Sunday. So then if you didn't change it from Saturday's race, then you would have been DQ'd for Sunday's race. But say you heard about the DQing on Saturday's race, where let me read the list that got DQ'd.
It's pretty lengthy. They went through a lot of the field to get a podium.
Actually, the official sheet says Saturday light buggy Connor Schultz, Aiden Wanasega, and Adam Heikla. Yep. And then single buggy Connor Schultz, Colin Schultz, and Trailstead. So that's what the official DQ sheet has stated. And had nothing on Sunday. So I guess Saturday, those guys they just went to a podium. Unfortunately, they didn't go through the whole field and give DQs out at that specific race.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, okay. I kind of do wish they would have did that, because, I mean, it feels kind of fair that if they're having a wide range problem that they're going to, announce it, or it's going to be known on after that race, and then they're going to do a full field check the next day. They really should have done a full field check that day and remove the points from the people that were in violation. I just feel like that's a more fair approach. What do you think?
Yeah, I get what you're saying there. That's kind of how they've always done it, so that's just what they do, right? But I get where you're coming from with that. I guess I do know that there was people that had illegal carburetors and then changed them for Sunday, like you would. But yeah.
So do you think it's a proven advantage, or is this just all bench raced, more CFM, or is there a direct advantage like we've seen dyno numbers that have proven this?
So I haven't seen a dyno number. It would be interesting, and we would have the capability of doing that. Maybe be just to give it a try for grins, but it does. It's like 12 CFM more is the number that I was told. Which the biggest choke point on a Volkswagen motor is the carburetor.
So that leads me to think: would you think that if this rule was to be modified so that you could take this unused tube out, that maybe one class could use that advantage over the other, just because purely they could use more horsepower? Or do you think that that's just kind of messing with too much, and then it's just going to cause a snowball effect?
Yeah, so we do have an issue where light buggy is slowly catching single buggy, and there needs to be a larger spread between the classes. But it's tough because the single buggy engines are. Anything you change, you're going to be asking people to throw a bunch of stuff away. Now, obviously, removing this tube would be fairly simple and it would help. But now you have tubed and tubeless carburetors in circulation, and now you're just asking for trouble too, because buggy guys do sell and trade and whatever, a lot of parts amongst each other.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great advantages in that class is that you can go to your neighbor and he can lend you a part, sell you a part, or whatever, where it should be stock component across stock component, and everybody should be running the same thing. I think that's one of the great advantages in that class. So yeah, that brings issues.
Single buggy has a little bit of had a record of like the longest running rule book unchanged. Yeah, and that got changed last year just because of some ratification of rules, because we had to update widths and stuff because of changing in machining tolerances and things from 20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, Connor Schultz came out on Sunday and single buggy, he still won. So maybe there's not that much of an effect. Looks like light buggy, he had more challenges, but that might have been just because, as you alluded to off recording, that it might have been, they had to use another carb and it wasn't set up right, or it was just not a good carb.
Yep, they're finicky.
Yeah, so it's one little thing could teeter the whole deal over. Okay, one question off of this tech question. The restart on Saturday. How do you feel about that?
I was sitting in the crowd and watching the race, and I was looking somewhere else on the track when they pulled the restart. But I watched it back. That's a tough deal. I felt like the flag was pulled and Seafelt hadn't gone, and the second row went. I thought it was crazy that they didn't make them give the spots back. This was maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago maybe, and we kind of pulled some crap on a restart, passed a couple cars, and we went from like maybe 14th to 12th. And we got our wrists slapped and had to give the spots back. And it's not like we were going from second or third to first, But I think that maybe it shows the best way to run the restart would be to just run the whole field off the flagman, and the flagman can decide between the cones, because it's tough for the leader to pick it randomly and the flagman to react, and then the field to go off of that. And it just kind of creates a really complex, like almost like a game of telephone, and the message gets screwed up. So I think if Faye just starts it between the cones at random, the whole field is at the same, advantage or disadvantage.
Yeah, I think I almost even favor just have a dedicated start line. That way, because sometimes you're pretty concentrated on not rear-ending the guy in front of you, and making sure you're close, though, that if you lose that flag guy that's further off in the distance, or if you're sitting lower and further in the back in the middle of the pack, that
Yep.
you might not even be able to see him, especially with the first little bump there at Crandon. I always thought the restart where the leader gets to fire it off between those cones was always unique, but I think it has these challenges, and definitely Seafelt definitely wasn't happy with the results of it just by listening to his podium speech. So
I thought that the restart looked really good. In the past, they've been pretty fast paced. This year, I've noticed we're really slowed down, and it's making for better restarts. But I don't know. I think it was Saturday, Light Buggy. The base truck forgot to pull out, and Light Buggy got all of their squirrels in a row, and they pulled off, I think, one of the best restarts of the weekend. Like, it was nice, clean, slow pace. I thought that was an honorable mention.
yeah. Alrighty, is there anything else you want to add about this carburetor or anything else?
Yeah, anybody with a buggy out there, make sure you got the little tube that's for vacuum advance, and that it's a pick 30, 1, 2, 3, or the called out empty part numbers. As long as it's everything the rule book says, you won't have any issues.
Yeah, so obviously that's going to be, we got to just hear from Luke Alcox there, and being the class rep in single buggy, obviously this also extended to the light buggy as well, but I bet you this is the talk of the buggy people, the buggy nerds, of what's going on with the DQs. Obviously, I think you talked to some of the drivers. Some of these parts have been around through generations and generations of buggies or drivers or whatever else. So getting this level of DQs, and especially, it's not just how many people were DQ'd or people that had to change things. It's the names as well. Like, the top runners are getting the DQs, and obviously I don't know all the specifics. I didn't get to talk to everybody, but if it's adding any level of speed or momentum, you hate to say it, but I mean, the fast guys were getting the DQ.
Yeah, I think that the biggest takeaway from this is that I feel like they should have went through the whole field on Saturday and DQ'd everybody that had this particular application of issue, or they had to take and come to terms on settling it another way. I think that would have been the most fair point, because
Rochambeau for your spot?
well, maybe if that's what it takes, but I think you either got to apply the DQs to everybody in the field when it comes to a mass issue like this. I just
so my question is, so like, for example, if we grab light buggy, so obviously there was some shifts up in the top spots. So Evan Hockers originally got teched. He was fine. So when the guy entered into the top three, then because of the DQ, did they also get teched until they had the top three that passed tech?
Yeah, they tech until they have a podium.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then it could have been three guys, and then you could have found a podium. But in that case, they should have said, hey, we need to check the whole field. We know this is a widespread issue. That's just my opinion.
Do they have the resources and time at the track to tech? If you're looking 22 plus 44 cars, or 42 cars, I should say.
Yeah, the race is over. They didn't got to race until the next day. Put them in a line and figure it out. Because the next morning when they did pre-check, they did that exactly. They checked everybody's car, but there was no DQs handed out. It was just a pre-check. You had to have it good before you went on the track.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, obviously there was probably a lot of commotion going on in the pits, and a lot of parts being changed overnight would be my guess.
Yeah, everybody seemed to have got their problems taken care of and abided by the rules, but certainly there's a lot of commotion. So I actually texted Connor Schultz and asked him, 6 questions here. And I think it's important to give his perspective, because he's obviously the top runner in the field, leading in points, and one of the people that were probably most drastically affected by this DQing. So let me do my best here to read off some paper. I said, do you feel it was fair for them to check only the cars to the podium instead of checking the whole field and DQing everybody on Saturday? His response, no, not fair. I believe when they find a huge issue like this that affects more than 50% of the class/field, the class rep needs to get involved before they start DQing. Anyone getting or getting involved with Morris to figure it out. And then, because at this point, we're leaving it up to the tech directors. I'm doing a little verbatim here just to make it a little bit faster. The current process is pretty much fully up to the tech directors, and it doesn't affect our class rep or anything at all in that case. Do you believe it was an advantage? Absolutely not. I heard gains were near 3 horsepower, but with restrictor plates, it makes 0 difference. Bill Savage claimed it was 50 CFM gains as well, which without solid proof of that in a rule book that flow bench results, it is completely unusable. So were the carbs in your program something you received from an engine builder in illegal condition, or were they something that you received used? My light buggy carb was running since 1997 and was changed once in 28 years, or hasn't changed once in 28 years. Where was the tech then back in 28 years? Obviously, we haven't gotten this checked in 28 years, so that's a problem that it comes up now. And then, does this change the strategy for points for this year? And it says, absolutely. The chances of a championship is way less now. In both classes, I literally have to win every race to even be close. So I think it's good to get some input there from the drivers when it comes to an issue like this. So I'm glad we were able to cover some of that.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in on the points aspect of this. So Connor was right. I mean, in light buggy, that dropped him down to 7th in points with 181 points on the year. The leader, Jake Shillman, has 272 points. So it's almost a 100-point gap now. So obviously, he could peck away at that and get back up to the top. But there's a lot of fast guys up there. It's Jake, Evan Hawkers, Greg Stengel, Tom Perryman. So, all guys that you were calling out being fast. Some light buggy definitely is impactful. And then kind of just flipping over to the single buggy to kind of give you some additional perspective into the points there. It does drop him to 7th there. Same situation, he's 191 points. Seafelt is up on the top in single buggy at 273, so creates the same thing. Taylor Roloff and then Bo Ambos are the top 3 early on it. Well, at this point, 3 races in, it's not so early anymore.
Yeah, and as far as the 2 drops that they get, for sportsmen, they get to drop 2 of their lowest points. They cannot drop a DQ. So that brings in that factor a little bit more too with those guys that are leading higher in points. We don't know if can you see if they were there at Wheatland?
I'm probably, let's see if I get into I cannot see if they were into Wheatland. I would assume based off of their points they were.
Yeah, and then I asked Connor, I said, does this maybe hindsight, you have a little bit of regret not running the mud race in Anago? And absolutely not. They should have never held those races in the conditions to begin with. I quote.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody loves the mud race, I guess.
No, I mean, not to go back on another weekend prior, but I mean, again, that was one of the worst mud races that has hit the charts on many drivers.
Yeah, it was sloppy. I mean, obviously, yeah, let's not rehash it, but being on clay and muddy is not fun. All right, you got anything else on the DQ that you want to talk about, or you want to move on to your class here?
The mod cart class?
Yep.
We can move on to mod cart class. All right. Oh, man. So Saturday, race gets the whole shot. Then a few laps, Monsager gains that lead before the halfway point. it really kind of just stays that steady Monsager, and then Vandervoort gets into second, and then Visser. And Vandervoort gives Monsager some action, trying to get some passes, but just couldn't make it stick. Maybe just not enough wheel speed or something along those lines. And then Visser was in third there, still keeping the pressure up, but wasn't able to make anything happen past that.
Yeah, so, Saturday was Lincoln, Wesley, and Race Visser, and then Sunday it was Lincoln, Wesley, Vandervoort, and Brixton Wort.
Alrighty. Yeah, I think that's when Visser had his a chain failure, I believe. I believe he was up there for majority of the time. I think our competition is really going to be in that Monsager, Vandervoort, and Visser, and I believe there's two more others that have some good points up there as far as a points battle.
Yeah, I can flip to the points here in a second, but I was going to hit you with a question. So on the track, they are running about the same times as, I guess, on the full track, they're running about the same times as the light buggy, like the total time around. I guess, where do you feel that the mod carts are sitting with, like, the level of speed they have, what they can do is the cart, like, do you think their speed's good? They should try to pick up the speed? Like, what do you think?
I think the speed's currently good. I think you can compare it to, light buggy. I think you also could put it on the same charts as, like a Sportsman UTV class. They're moving. I mean, they got a 450 engine in them, and they're fairly light, low to the ground, so they're fairly stable. So they're right where they need to be. I mean, if you go faster, I guess you're gonna have to bring in some more aspects of bigger cage or thicker cage, but those things are built pretty stout already, and I think they're moving along pretty good.
Yeah, if you're looking at the points right now where they're sitting here, between first and fifth, there's actually a 32-point gap only. So Caleb Bell is sitting fifth with 244. Up top is Lincoln with 276. Then it's Brixton, Wesley, and Race.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a close battle all year. I mean, we're only a third through the season, so that's gonna be.
Well, and they get to drop too, right? They're one of the ones that get to drop.
Correct. They get to drop two as well.
Yeah, so that will be interesting to see. I think so. For Modcart ran all them. So Modcart will not have an extra race at ERX. So all the classes that missed at Anago.
Yeah, 170/200 and 570.
Yep, will be getting their extra race at ERX.
Yes. If weather holds out for ERX.
I'm counting on it, all right? Do you have anything else on Modcart, or you're pretty settled there?
No, I think that sums it up well. How about we move up to your class now for Pro Buggy?
Yeah. I mean, come on now. Pro Buggy is always fun. So, obviously just flipping here to some results.
Well, on Saturday, Jordan Barnlower goes flag to flag, wins that thing.
Yeah, definitely. He was on rails. He definitely picked up a big lead and held it. Michael Meister second, Dave Mason Jr. I think this was his first weekend back in the Champ Series.
Yeah, his first race back at Champ Series. He actually snags that third place on the last lap. It was a pretty good move.
Yep. Over Chandon Minder, Billy Booth fifth to round out the top five. If you're looking at Sunday, Michael Meister first, Dave Mason Jr. second, and Ryan Schwabe third. Steinhardt fourth, Cole Bernlohr fifth. And then also sneaking up almost into the top five was Jaden Lemke on Sunday as well, getting a sixth place. So, we always talk about it for Pro Buggy. You got the two groupings. Jaden Lemke's always really up front in that second grouping, and at least getting to almost crack into the top five at Crandon is pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's a borderline guy. And it's good. He's showing more speed. I think Crandon should be one of his better tracks, considering, the buggy time that he's experienced.
Yeah, definitely, getting some experience coming up through the light buggy class. Obviously, pro buggy is a little bit of a bigger learning curve. A lot more goes into those pro buggies than the light buggy. But yeah, I mean, we always talk about it and I think buggies, because you got to carry some momentum, it's more important. Like the top end speed at Crandon is way more important than almost any other track, because there's a lot of areas where you can kind of, benefit from the top end speed. So it's really, I think that's where the equipment or the setup is important, because you're trying to gain that top end speed to carry. And I think that's something that you learn over more years in pro buggy class, just from my outside looking in.
Yeah. And disappointing news to hear. Meister this is the end of his season. He was only allotting a portion of the season to race, and he's going to take the rest of the season to, he's got building houses and he's got a busy work life. So understandable, but sad to hear that, because he has been very competitive.
Yeah, that's always tough to, take a look at that from a points perspective. You're looking up at the points, and Michael Meister is actually your points leader. And it's not even by a few points. It's by a lot. He's got 310 points. Billy Booth's in second with 254. So, Michael Meister's leaving a lot on the table, stepping out of the first place in points.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's a decision he's made, and we hope to see him back next season, full time.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Anytime you get a driver out there full time, I want all the drivers out there every single race. But just to finish out the points, Billy Booth second, Chandon Minder third, Jordan Bordelor fourth, and Mike Steinhardt fifth.
Awesome. So, the old guys are back on the podium.
Yes, they are. That was super awesome that Wyatt Miller called them out and said, "I'm taking out the old guys."
I don't know what the exact quote is. Was it taking out the old guys, or
no,
trying to keep up with them, or something along those lines?
It's something about the old guys. I don't remember the exact quote either, but it was awesome that he called, because he was VDE and Visser were up there, and he called them the old guys. I'm like, perfect, especially because early in the season, Visser's the one up on the podium talking about getting beat out by the kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked to VDE after that, and he said he loves it. He likes the camaraderie he has with Miller.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that shows that evolution in Wyatt Miller's comfort level in the truck series, in the off-road series, that he's willing to get up on the podium, make those type of comments. That's a big step for a younger kid, and I don't know. I thought everybody I talked to thoroughly enjoyed it, because it just kind of creates that dynamic. Anybody around the sport has been talking about the youth movement in pro spec, so him to call it out and saying he got to beat the old guys was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that whole race was getting pretty physical. A lot of doors banging, and it was definitely aggression level got turned up.
Yeah, I mean, race 5 and 6. So you're starting to, like I said, you're starting to get into, points battles are up. You're getting into the point of the season where you're trying to set yourself up for a good run for the rest of the season. And I mean, we're going to start seeing that, and not just in pro spec, but throughout the whole pro class. I think that you're going to start seeing guys banging on doors more, really trying to get the benefit of the, the next position. And it was cool, though. Like you said, Saturday is Wyatt Miller, Chris Vandenhausen second, Nick Visser third. And then you flip to Sunday, it was Chris Vandenhausen with the win, Nick Visser second, and Ronald Kaziziak in third.
So now that we've been talking about points here for a bit, I've done some math.
Oh, boy.
And some theorizing.
Oh,
and
boy.
I have what I call is the game over line. We are now I actually did we are 37.5% of the season complete. So in pro spec, points wise, you just called them out. Nick, Chris, Wyatt, Avery, Dylan, and then Ronald Casiza is the 6th. And then 7th is Axelson, and 8th is Galvin Plummer. My predicted game over line there is 6th. So I believe that 7th, 8th, from 6 down, I don't believe there's a championship possible with points.
I would agree. I mean, I don't have the math in front of me, but just a quick look and trying to think how many race weekends we have left to, or how many races we have left to 4, 6, 8, potentially 10, right?
Yeah, 10.
Yeah, 10 race weekends left. So, yeah, I would say that's probably almost mathematically impossible.
So I'm not going to get another cheeseburger bet out of you?
No, probably not.
All right. And just to cycle back, because I did this for Pro Spec, Pro 2, Pro 4, and also Mod Kart. So I'll just cycle back to Mod Kart. I believe my predicted game over line is at number 11. So that one's a little more challenging because it has the dropouts.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that either. I mean, you're sitting at 11 in points at this point. It's probably a slim chance you're winning a points champion.
Yeah. So
even if you put it all together, I don't know.
Yeah, there's 14 in that class. So, but again, the dropout ability there, that one makes it complicated. Alrighty, we'll get my other game over lines, and I would love when everybody hears all these game over lines. I would love to hear somebody in the comments tell me that I'm going to be wrong, and I will bet you a cheeseburger.
Man, we'll see where they are, because so far where they are, it would take a lot, especially if you start looking at who's ahead of them. It's almost mathematically impossible. But let's continue our conversation here. Let's go to pro stock side by side. I'm predicting, and I bet you're not going to bet a cheeseburger on this either, but I think we're going to see the end of the line for CJ Greaves in the points championship here. Obviously, it's still able to probably get a points championship for CJ Greaves, but Owen Van Eperen is on rails in the stock side by side.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they probably should delete the word stock, but that would make it a little bit more believable. But I agree.
I don't know. They look stock, right?
I don't know. When you're holding a carbon fiber wheel that looks like you just got done driving an F1 car.
I don't know. It's still, from the outside, they look stock. We'll go with that.
Yeah, they're stock. I know there's so much more involvement in those classes now that it's hard to believe that that's the same thing that somebody's driving on a trail.
Agree. So Saturday, Owen Van Eperen takes the top of the box. Jeb Boodle second. CJ Greaves third. So obviously you're looking at Yamaha on the top of the box. Imagine this. You go to Sunday, Owen Van Eperen up on the box, CJ second, Cross Kirchmeier third. So you get a little bit of a variety. So you get the Yamaha, Polaris, Honda. But so far, it's kind of been the Yamaha show in the pro stock, with Owen Van Eperen at least.
David Gay, he was fourth was that Saturday?
Let's take a look here on Saturday. Yep, he was fourth.
So that was actually Robert Loire. I actually used to race with him back in the day. So it was kind of cool to see him dust off the old racing boots and go out there and throw down.
Yeah, I mean, and that's actually huge, because if you go to point standings, David Gay is sitting third in points.
Yeah, and I believe David Gay was back on Sunday. I think it was a wedding or something, which if that's true, dang, you must really like them people.
Yeah, 100%. The interesting thing here is, as we talk about manufacturers in the stock, obviously Owen Van Epperen's walking away. Well, I shouldn't say walking away with points because it is not. It's only 24-point difference, so a bad result from Owen Van Eperen could knock him off the top. But he is, other than him and his Yamaha, you have to go all the way down to 7th place for the next Yamaha points, with John Fitzgerald sitting with 214 points. And then after that, it's really just a plethora of Polarises and then Cross Kirchmeier with his Honda. And I think he is a lone Honda in the field. So it's kind of interesting. You're getting a little mix-up, but Polaris definitely has the stock class figured out for the most part. There's just some outliers in the Yamaha that are very, very fast. And I'm just flipping to some of the times here to figure out, but like, I mean, I could speak to what I saw Saturday and a little bit as well on Sunday. When Owen Van Eperen gets out front in clean air, he just checks out.
Yeah. And Fitz is the Van Eperen's builder, alongside of Beyond Redline and stuff that do some collaboration stuff. But so that just shows that those cars are right up there and performing.
Yeah, they definitely are. Wanted to get into a little bit of pro light conversation.
Yeah, let's talk some trucks. I like trucks, man.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you like trucks? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Connor
all
Berry,
trucks?
Not all trucks.
Okay.
Connor Berry and John Holcher, they are going to put on a show the rest of the season. I certainly hope, because it is a good show.
Yeah, I mean, definitely two fast trucks, and I think we were coming into the start of the season and we were kind of talking about, who's going to be the challenger for Johnny Holcher in the pro light class, and kind of thinking that, he might have it for his taking and there wouldn't be a lot of competition, but definitely very quickly early on in the season, especially lately, it's definitely been Connor Berry.
Yeah, and it's going to take a mechanical to get him out of the top 3. So, which we've seen at Anago. He had a mechanical that dropped him out of the race there. And other than that, I think he's been top 3, either winning or second. Majority of the time.
Johnny Holcher, that is?
Connor Berry.
Oh, Connor Berry.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you look at the results Saturday, Johnny Holcher, Connor Berry, Michael Funk. And then Sunday, the only difference was 3rd place with Matt Wood. So when Johnny Holcher, Connor Berry, Matt Wood, Funk took 4th. So oddly enough, it was like Funk and Wood just flipped spots the 2 days.
Yeah, and Funk was starting to put some good stuff together too on that Saturday's race. Holcher, he got the pass for the win, 2 laps to go, and it was door-to-door banging for like a lap and a half, even 2 you could consider.
Yeah, I mean, what I could say is, like, we definitely haven't been disappointed with the, like, level of racing that we've had amongst all the pro truck classes. I think we've seen a lot of good competition. A lot of things have happened and a lot of excitement. I mean, you're looking at some of the lap times on these. They're running pretty steady across the top 5. And just to shout out the top 5 too, since might as well just go all the way to 5. Gray Ledbetter had that both days.
Awesome. Ready for pro side-by-side?
Yeah, your type of stuff.
Miniature Pro 4s. And they're starting to act like Pro 4s.
Which for the record is kind of scary.
Yeah, well, CJ blows a belt up, I think, first lap.
Yeah.
And then Cheney's up there battling it out and blows a shock up. I mean, it looked like poof, like the canister must have blew up or something along those lines. So yeah, the miniature Pro 4s are starting to act like Pro 4s, where they just deplete out throughout the race.
Yeah. Once again, though, who do you think is up on the top here? Owen Van Eperen, both days. So just got those side-by-sides dialed in. Obviously, they've spent a lot of time on them, and they've for sure got them dialed in. So Owen Van Eperen first, Jeb Boodle, and then Rodney Van Eperen took third on Saturday. And then Sunday it was Owen Van Eperen, a name we haven't heard a lot this season. Andrew Carlson took second. And then third, Jeb Boodle. So we're about to go to Year X coming up here, and Andrew Carlson getting up on the podium finally.
Yeah, and Year X should be his more favorable track.
Do we think at this point the Pro 4 is just done?
I think he's got it parked for financial strategic reasons.
Got it. Just curious. I mean, we're, 6 races in, haven't seen it, so.
I tell you what, I think that's a good question to ask him at ERX.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's like you said, they're becoming faster and faster, and all the time that the Van Eperens have spent on these machines is clearly paying off, and especially in the pro side-by-side classes. I mean, Jeb Boodle is holding up well. Obviously, Polaris can blow out the belt. CJ had that happen. Things can happen amongst all these, but yeah, CJ has a lot of work to do for himself in the pro side-by-side. Is he below your game over line?
I do not have a game over line for pro side-by-side.
Well,
I did it for the 4 classes.
Come on now. Let's take a look here. If I can grab it quickly to see if it's even CJ Greaves. He is not he is not below the game over line. He's sitting 4th in points at 237. Owen Van Eperen has 288. Jeb Boodle 267. Rodney Van Eperen 255. So I would say CJ Greaves is safely not below your game over line.
Yeah, I would say so too. Maybe I'll do the math on that one, but I would say he's probably safe too at that point.
I was all excited for your game over line. Come on.
Well, you can be excited for the Pro 2 and the Pro 4 game over line then.
Okay, that's what I'm looking forward to, because let's flip to that Pro 2. We get some excitement happening in Pro 2, some new drivers showing up at Crandon that haven't raced in a while.
Some new old drivers.
Yeah, some sheet metal that's probably no longer in existence.
I don't know how Corey Winter does this. Just shows up, dominates, and just doesn't run a full season. I don't understand it.
I do. I picked him.
Well, I understand that part, but...
And guess what? I picked him, and everybody laughed at me because I took Corey Winter to get in the top 3 on Saturday. And what happened?
I just don't understand why he doesn't do a full season. I'm sure finances are probably top on that list of why, but it just feels like if you're so good at it, you should do it the whole time.
Yeah, it feels that way, but then you look at your pocketbook and then you probably go, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. But I get where you're coming from. Saturday, Keegan Kincaid, hometown boy, takes the first place. Corey Winter second, which we just talked about. Third was Bradley Morris, returning to the Pro Truck Series from California. I didn't recognize the name too much, but apparently he was racing, was it more West Coast potentially?
Yeah, he was in the Lucas Series on the West Coast. He ran the black and orange K&N truck. That's probably the most recognizable one that you know that he has. He also has a Pro 4 sitting in his garage, so there might be another person in Pro 4.
In Fall Crandon?
I'm not going to say when, where, how, or because I don't know that for sure, but I know he's got a Pro 4, and, well, he seems eager to drive, so.
Yeah, will be interesting. Saturday, 4th was Kyle Greaves. 5th was Ryan Beat. Greaves and Beat and Morris definitely traded panels through multiple times throughout the end of the race on Saturday, so the tension is raising in the Pro 2 class.
Well, I think Morris touched the panels of every truck in that class except the pace truck. But, and that maybe he even didn't went back in staging, but I'm pretty sure he touched every single truck he could in order to get up to the position he did. And I hate to be the pessimistic side of this, but the Pro 2 field was behaving. They were behaving to an acceptable level, and then Bradley Morris comes in, and now it becomes a fist fight again, and panels are turning into rubble.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw Saturday, it was definitely a lot of aggressive driving. I don't know, definitely panel to panel. We'll have to see what it looks like, coming up at other races, who's entered, who's not. Sunday, if you're looking at the results, Keegan Kincaid again, which for him, that's the sweep because he wins the cup race too. So he went 3 for 3. Keegan Kincaid, Corey Winter second, and then Johnny Holcher third. So Johnny Holcher finished all the way down in 7. Well, I say all the way down. There's 14 trucks. So he finished halfway in the field 7th on Saturday. So Johnny Holcher picking up the podium on Sunday.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it makes the points very interesting right now. Coming into the season, we knew Keegan was going to be running a full season. He announced it, and I knew Keegan could be fast, but he's proved it so far through the first 6 weeks. He's top in points at 302, beats third, Ricky G third, and Johnny Holcher fourth, and then rounding out the top 5, Kyle Greaves with 234 points, sitting pretty well behind Keegan Kincaid at his 302.
Yeah, and then, as you add these new people in, it's going to shake up the points too because they're absorbing sections of those points. So Pro 2 will continue to be exciting.
Game over line?
Game over line.
I know you have it.
I do. All right, my game over line is 5th place. 5th position for points. So if you're below Kyle Greaves, which is Jacob Rosales, Trey Gibbs, and Zakowski, and then more and more and more. Mainly people that are not fully running a season.
Mm-hmm. Okay, makes sense. All right, let's jump to...
So no bet on that one either?
No. Let's jump to Pro 4. I think the story of the weekend.
Hole shot Johnny?
Hole shot Johnny. It's not hole shot Hook anymore. It's hole shot Johnny.
Yeah, we'll have to get something more grabby than that, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
We'll have to work on that one.
Yeah, I have nothing but results out. CJ Greaves on the top of the box, Johnny Greaves second, Kyle Cheney third, Adrian Cheney fourth, and then Jimmy Henderson fifth on Saturday. You're flipping to Sunday. Look at that, new guy on the top of the box, Jimmy Henderson.
Yeah, Sunday, Johnny breaks a wheel. I forget what side, but I think it was a spindle that actually broke. And that took him out of the cup race as well, so that's unfortunate. Always sucks to have somebody taken out of the cup race.
It does. It's always tough. Like, that's the tough part about running twice on Sunday. You just hope to finish your first race relatively clean so you can get out there for the cup race. But, so then second was CJ Greaves, and Cole Mamer was third, Paul Wolf fourth, Kyle Cheney fifth. It was a little bit of a rough weekend for Mickey Thomas. Mickey Thomas finished 6th on Sunday and 8th on Saturday. So definitely probably not the results he was hoping for going into his Crandon first time in the Pro 4.
Yeah, and I think they're just working out bugs like he told us in our interview early before the season even started, that the expectations of this season is to work out the bugs, get comfortable with the truck, and just get up to that level of where you can be proficient.
And I would venture off to say, looking at the tracks and obviously the distance, and we know Crandon being one of the bigger tracks is probably definitely a learning curve from a Pro 4 experience, because you got to see it, especially in the Cup race, where Pro 4s can run places Pro 2s can't at Crandon. And they can do it at more tracks than that, but I think it's more prevalent at Crandon that in a Pro 4, you have the ability to run in a lot more places than you probably could have in a Pro 2. And some of those places you can probably stick a Pro 4 are a little bit faster around. And I think that's something, some of the new guys in Pro 4 will continue to learn.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with getting the truck dialed in too. There's a lot to be left on the table if you have a misadjusted truck or something that you just didn't learn about until you got out there about the truck.
So does Jimmy Henderson getting the top spot at Crandon help fuel the Jimmy Henderson fan base for maybe? Let's get to the points here. Let's see if it's even feasible. Jimmy Henderson's pretty far in points, so it doesn't really get him close to CJ. But I gotta believe that the anti-Greaves fan base love that one.
I just think that there's just you pick your wrestler type deal. You want your guy to win at any cost, and you're happy if he gets a win or gets a podium or even shows speed. So
I feel like Jimmy Henderson has kind of taken on the quote outlaw of the Pro 4 class, like just the villain to everybody else, I guess.
Yeah, I think it depends on your perspective, but either way, it's making for great entertainment. So I'm happy to see it.
I'm excited too, but I think the other exciting thing that we have is there's like Cole Maimer, Mickey Thomas, when they have the truck figured out, they're showing a lot of speed. So I think we're going to enter a new era of these trucks sticking around. That it is going to, right now CJ Greaves has an okay point lead. Like, he's got 322. Cole Maimer's sitting second, 265. CJ is sitting pretty good in points right now, but I think there's going to be a time in the next couple of years where he's going to have a little bit more of a challenge up on the top of the points.
Yeah, I think that's exciting for everybody involved, for the fans, for the racers, for the crews, for everybody. Yeah.
Anytime you have more than, just one person walking away at the races or always winning, like, I think that adds excitement all the way around. It makes people want to be like, okay, other than the cup races, right? On normal weekends, the last race of the night is your Pro 4s. It makes people want to stick around to watch the races and not sit like, oh, it's just going to be them tearing their trucks apart, blah. Like, it's starting to add a lot of excitement.
Yeah, it certainly is. So, game over line is anything under fifth or over fifth, whatever you want to reference it as. So, if you're Mickey Thomas, you're on the line. Adrian and Cheney, you're below the line.
Ooh, 5 points between them. That's a thin line. I am not betting no track burger on that, though.
You won't?
No, because, below the line? I'm looking at those names. None of them are putting together a string of wins to get a championship.
Yeah, the problem is, you got RJ that is only showing up for a select 3 weekends. And then you got Kyle Cheney that didn't have anything for Wheatland, so he didn't show up there. And then you got Robert Stout, which has been a pretty consistent lower finisher.
Yeah. And then Paul Wolf and Adrian Cheney, which, no offense to either one of them, because I think they're fine drivers. They're just not stringing together enough wins with Mickey Thomas, Jimmy Henderson, Johnny Greaves, Cole Maimer, and CJ Greaves ahead of them. They're not putting enough wins together to win a points championship.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think your game over line was pretty conservative.
Well, we're only 30-some% into the race series here this season.
Obviously, anything could happen, but just looking at where that line was, it made sense in almost every class. So.
Oh, perfect. Then I'm on right on my math, and that's pretty scary. That's being reviewed from the math guy.
Well, I just did this very quickly. I don't know what you all put into it, but it seems fair. So.
All right, I'll keep on doing it, and maybe as we get closer, I'll get some bets. And again, anybody listening,
nobody bet him a track burger on that, please.
If you think that I'm wrong, please, I will take the bet.
You might as well just give me your money right now. I'll go buy the track burger and tell them how good it was. No, other than that, so that kind of wraps up Crandon. Anything you want to talk about from other than just the Crandon facilities? Anything that you want to shout out Crandon for?
Well, if they could turn down the temperature, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think they have control over that, so they should get right on that. But I do want to shout them out for putting together a heck of a track on Saturday. Obviously, they got a lot of rain. They got the equipment out there. They worked the track, and the track looked very well intact. I think there's a lot of people even the racers were saying, wow, the track was in a lot better condition than we thought it would be.
Yeah, and I think it's great to give them a pat on the back for that. But unfortunately, it seems to be the norm that Crandon pulls through when it seems to have some rain, because it always gets rain. So they know how to manage it pretty darn well.
Yeah, so we're sitting 2 weekends away here from ERX, heading to Elk River, Minnesota, the 4th race weekend, so 7 and 8 rounds. What are your thoughts heading into ERX? Anything you're looking to watch? I know from a facility track, we talked to a lot of drivers. This is one of their favorite tracks to drive on. It's one of my favorite tracks to watch. So I guess what are you looking forward to for ERX? Other than pit bike races. Wait, do they still have those?
No pit bike races. We'll be lucky if we can bring a pit bike.
I hope we can bring a pit bike.
Yeah, we'll have to look into it. But ERX is just always a fun track. Always brings great competition. The split lane makes for a good dynamic in the whole race. And
the whoops.
Yeah, those depending on who carves them up. It can really be either dramatic point of the race, or they can be actually pretty mellow.
I've seen some drivers and some real good friends go for some heck of a rides in the whoops.
Yeah, and I think those were all the early years. I think we've been pretty good the last couple years on whoop incidents.
Yeah. I'm thinking of one in particular.
Yeah, I
know you're probably thinking the same one.
You're thinking of one that when the radiator went to space.
We're still looking for that radiator. You ever find it, Jim?
I think Elon called him up a few weeks ago.
It's floating in space, man.
Yeah. But I think that we have tight competition in a lot of classes. Certainly Pro Spec to watch, Pro 2 to watch, Pro 4 to see maybe not who's on top, but who's going to be on the podium, considering that big gap that we have on points.
Any bold prediction in any class?
Bold prediction. I think Avery Hemmer for a sweep.
Ooh, that is bold. I was going to say this is also interesting because this contradicts. I was going to say Dylan Parsons gets a win this coming into ERX.
I smell a cheeseburger bet coming on here.
Track burger?
Track burger.
Ooh, that's how are we track burgering this though?
Or a vodka Red Bull. That place is known for Red Bulls and vodka.
Yeah. I'm just saying though, so the bet would be if you get a sweep, I have to buy it, and if Parson wins, you buy it. If neither one of those happens, it's just a wash.
Then we both buy our own burgers and we sit down and eat them.
Sounds good. Track burger bet in locked.
All right. Avery, don't let me down.
Come on, Parsons.
All right, what do you got for your other than a bold bet?
Ooh, that's tough. My bold bet is I gotta stay away from the pro specs. It's not really a bold bet though, so I bet. Ooh, my bold bet is CJ Greaves does not take first in Pro 4 either day.
Doesn't take first in either day?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll take that bet.
I didn't say I was betting it. I was just saying that's my bold prediction.
I was going to say Johnny's going to be on podium both days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Track burger, we're going to be.
I don't know how you work that out, though, but very sure we'll track burger that.
So we're going to go to ERX, everybody. and all we're eating is track burgers.
Yeah, that might be true because my wife isn't coming, so we don't have somebody to cook for us.
Yeah.
What's a bold prediction for Pro 2 then?
So for Pro 2, bold prediction is Kyle Greaves podium both days.
Well, I gotta agree with you on that. That's what my bold prediction was going to be.
Okay, well, we can't track burger that because that would be betting on the same thing. So
We gotta every time if it comes true, we gotta both buy Kyle a burger.
okay, sounds good. We could do that.
Kyle, burgers are on the line. You better put it on the box, on the top.
Doesn't have to be at the track either.
Okay.
Yeah, no, other than that, though, excited to make the journey out to ERX and great facility. Love to be there. Love to see, just the elevation changes in the track. Excited for a long weekend of racing, and please turn the heat down.
Yeah, the heat down, the rain off, some good cloud cover, keep that moisture in the track.
And a nice breeze on.
Yeah. I remember last year it was hot. So
And a good Red Bull vodka. All right.
just one.
Yeah, just one.
We're too old for two.
Definitely. All right. I don't have anything else on ERX, so.
All right, let's wrap it up then.
Yep. All right, everybody. We appreciate you listening and excited to, hopefully get some more drivers in for some interviews coming up. Watch for us going around at ERX shooting some content to get some more videos out there. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate it.
Cheers.